The sun hadn't even fully risen over Camp Bighorn, yet the air was thick with anticipation and fear. New recruits hustled through the gates, boots clanging against the concrete, sweat already beading on their foreheads. For many, this was their first taste of military life. For Alyssa Grant, it was just another day of proving herself. Alyssa wasn't the tallest, the most muscular, or the loudest in the room. She didn't command attention the way some recruits did, nor did she attempt to. But there was something about the calm, measured way she walked that drew eyes without trying. Her uniform was neat, her hair tucked under regulation bun, yet there was one detail that couldn't be hidden. A tattoo, small but stark, peeking from under the rolled-up sleeve of her left arm. It wasn't anything flashy, no vivid colors or dramatic designs. Just a black symbol, abstract enough to confuse anyone unfamiliar with it. Yet, as soon as the other recruits spotted it, whispers began. "Seriously, that's the tattoo she chose," a lanky recruit snickered, elbowing his buddy. "Looks like something a kindergartner doodled," the other replied, smirking. A third, leaning against the wall, laughed so hard he nearly dropped his canteen. "I mean, why even bother getting a tattoo if it looks like a mistake?" Alyssa kept walking, her eyes forward, lips pressed into a thin line. She had learned long ago that reactions fueled bullies, and attention was often a weapon in the wrong hands. Her shoulders remained squared, calm, composed, an unspoken challenge. During the morning weapons inspection, the teasing didn't stop. Recruits pointed subtly, exchanged smirks, and murmured under their breath. "What does it even mean?" a voice asked behind her. Alyssa stopped for a fraction of a second, her gaze flicking to the recruit. "Nothing you'd understand yet," she replied quietly and moved on. Her answer didn't satisfy them, of course. Murmurs rippled through the room, but then something strange happened. As Alyssa walked past the armory's window, her reflection caught Commander Rourke's eye, and for the first time in her life she saw someone's reaction that wasn't dismissive nor mocking. It was shock, pure, unfiltered shock. Rourke, a man of imposing stature with decades of military experience etched into his stern face, rarely reacted to anything. Nothing escaped his notice, but few things provoked genuine emotion. Yet there he was, mid-sentence, frozen, staring. "Where did you get that?" he whispered almost to himself. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Some recruits noticed and instinctively lowered their voices, unsure of how to react. The laughter had evaporated, replaced by a tense curiosity. Alyssa's pulse quickened. She had trained herself for stress, for life-or-death situations, but the sudden weight in the room made her uneasy. She had thought her tattoo was meaningless, a private mark of remembrance, and a nod to something personal. Now, it seemed to carry a gravity she hadn't anticipated. Later in the barracks, the energy among the recruits shifted. What was once teasing became cautious whispers, tinged with a hint of fear. "Did you see Rourke?" one recruit asked, shaking his head. He froze, like he actually knew what that symbol meant. "Do you think she's some kind of spy or special ops?" another replied, eyes wide. Alyssa stayed quiet. She didn't want to feed the speculation, didn't want to give anyone a foothold into her private life. She simply kept to herself, carefully arranging her gear, inspecting her weapon, and listening to the sounds of nervous chatter around her. But inside, she felt a pull, a mixture of fear and anticipation. The tattoo had been a secret for years, a memory of her brother, someone she had lost under circumstances she had never fully understood. She had assumed the mark was just for her, a small symbol of connection to him. She had never imagined that a random military commander could recognize it, and recognize it with fear. As the day went on, Commander Rourke's attention did not waver. He watched her discreetly, his eyes narrowing whenever she moved or spoke to another recruit. Alyssa felt the weight of his gaze, an invisible tether connecting her to him, to something she could not yet name. By midday, the teasing had quieted entirely. Recruits now avoided mentioning the tattoo, some even stealing glances out of nervous curiosity, others out of fear. It was as though the room had collectively sensed that the symbol wasn't just ink on skin, it was a signal, a warning, a story waiting to be told. During physical training, Alyssa excelled, pushing herself harder than anyone expected. Each movement, each calculated step, seemed to draw more attention from Rourke, who watched silently from the observation deck. Recruits whispered about her endurance, her speed, her precision, but no one dared mention the tattoo. The moment had passed into a tense, unspoken understanding. Something about Alyssa was different, and no one wanted to provoke it. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Alyssa returned to the barracks, exhausted but composed. She unpacked her small locker, carefully placing a worn envelope at the back, a detail no one could notice but her. It bore the same symbol as her tattoo. The envelope had been entrusted to her after her brother's death, and she had never opened it, afraid of what it might contain. Now its presence felt heavier than ever, almost as if the universe itself had decided the day was not yet done. Just as she locked the envelope away, a shadow fell across her shoulder. She looked up to find Commander Rourke standing there, his face unreadable but intense. His presence alone made her pulse race. "Grant," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "we need to talk." The room went quiet again. Recruits pretended not to notice, but every eye darted toward them, sensing something monumental about to unfold. Alyssa's stomach twisted with anticipation. She had trained for emergencies, for danger, for chaos, but not for this. A man who rarely showed emotion, now standing before her, staring at a tattoo like it held the secrets of the universe. She nodded slowly, keeping her expression calm. "Yes, Commander." As they stepped aside, away from prying eyes, the envelope in her locker seemed to pulse in the dim light, a silent herald of the revelations to come. And somewhere deep inside, Alyssa felt a mix of fear, hope, and an unshakable curiosity. Whatever lay ahead, the first domino had fallen. The laughter had died, and the truth, long buried and dangerous, was stirring. Behind them, the recruits exchanged nervous glances. Something had changed. The tattoo that had been mocked, that had seemed meaningless, was suddenly a symbol of intrigue, power, and danger. And no one, not even Alyssa, knew how far its reach would go. The last rays of sun vanished behind the mountains, and shadows lengthened across Camp Bighorn. Somewhere in the fading light, the first whispers of secrets ready to unravel began to stir. And in that moment, Alyssa realized nothing would ever be the same again. The SEAL commander had stopped in shock at a tattoo. That moment, brief as it was, hinted at secrets Alyssa had never known, a legacy she had never anticipated, and dangers that were just beginning to awaken. The day had barely begun, yet the weight of what had happened the previous evening still lingered in Alyssa's mind. She replayed the moment over and over. The brief pause, Commander Rourke's eyes widening, the almost imperceptible catch in his breath. She had walked past him countless times during drills, during inspections, during briefings, and never had he reacted, not like this. And yet here he was, standing at the far end of the armory that morning, his back straight, hands clasped behind him, staring at the same tattoo that had once earned her nothing but ridicule. Alyssa approached cautiously, her boots silent against the polished concrete floor. "Sir," she said, keeping her voice calm. Rourke turned, his expression unreadable, but the intensity in his eyes was unmistakable. He beckoned her closer, a subtle motion that carried more authority than any shouted command. The other recruits had been instructed to stay away, leaving the room eerily quiet, punctuated only by the occasional hum of machinery and the faint rustling of papers. "Grant," he began, his voice low, almost a whisper, "that tattoo, where did you first see it?" Alyssa's throat went dry. This was not a question she had expected. The tattoo had been a personal memorial, a symbol connecting her to her late brother. She had never thought it would draw attention, much less from someone like Commander Rourke. I saw it years ago," she replied carefully. "After my brother died, someone gave it to me, I've never shown it to anyone else." Rourke's jaw tightened. He took a step closer, reducing the space between them to just a few feet. "Grant, that symbol belongs to a unit that officially doesn't exist." Her pulse quickened. A unit that doesn't exist. The word sounded impossible, absurd. "Sir?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Rourke's eyes bore into hers. "You have no idea how dangerous that mark is," he said. "And you have it on your skin. He stopped, his voice catching for just a fraction of a second before continuing, "could be in more danger than you realize." Alyssa felt a chill crawl up her spine. Her life had been difficult, yes, but she had never faced this kind of uncertainty. This wasn't just teasing from recruits or a grueling training exercise. This was something else entirely, something real, something that could change everything. After a moment of silence, Rourke pulled a chair from the corner and sat, his movements deliberate, controlled. "You need to understand the significance of what you carry," he said, leaning forward, elbows resting on his knees. "That symbol, it's not just ink. It's a marker, a sign, a code, and only a few people in the entire world understand what it truly represents." Alyssa swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had always known the tattoo was tied to her brother in some way, but she had never imagined it could mean this. "Why? Why would anyone give me something so important?" she asked quietly. Rourke's eyes flickered with an emotion she couldn't name, fear, disbelief, even respect. "Because your brother trusted you. Or perhaps someone wanted to test you. Either way, the mark has found its way to you, and that means your life is no longer entirely your own." She looked down at her arm, at the black symbol etched into her skin. For the first time, it felt alive, almost pulsating with a quiet power she could not comprehend. The laughter of her fellow recruits now seemed absurd, insignificant. The tattoo was no longer a joke, it was a warning. Rourke's voice brought her back to the room. "There are factions, Grant, people who will kill to get their hands on that symbol, and some will manipulate others without conscience to achieve their goal." Her breath caught. "Factions?" "Yes," Rourke said. "Groups with resources, training, and secrecy that make them almost untouchable. Your brother, he was involved with one of them. And you now carry a key, a literal and figurative key, to secrets that were never meant to surface." Alyssa's mind swirled. Her brother had always been mysterious, a little rebellious, but she had never imagined him connected to something so clandestine. "My brother, he's gone," she said, her voice barely audible. "He died in that mission. The accident." Rourke shook his head slowly, his stern face softening for the briefest of moments. "No, your brother didn't die in a mere accident. He disappeared. And those who were responsible for the mission, they erased all records. They made it look like a tragic mistake, a casualty of circumstance. But he survived for a time. And he left behind this," he gestured to her tattoo. Alyssa's chest tightened. The weight of his words pressed down on her like a physical force. Everything she had thought she knew about her brother, about her own life, about the seemingly random series of events that led her here, was now thrown into doubt. "And now," she asked, her voice trembling slightly, "what does that mean for me?" Rourke leaned back, exhaling slowly. "It means you are now involved in something much bigger than training exercises, bigger than any mission you've imagined. Your presence here, your skills, your resilience, they are no accident. You were chosen in a way, whether you realize it or not. And that tattoo, it's a signal to those who know how to read it." A shiver ran down her spine. The quiet weight of reality pressed against her chest. She had always known that her brother's death left questions unanswered, shadows lingering in corners of her life. But now she understood the depth of the shadows. They were vast, dangerous, and reaching for her even here. Rourke stood and moved closer again, lowering his voice. "Grant, I can't promise safety. I can only promise that I will help you understand, and you will need to act carefully. There are forces watching, waiting for the wrong move. If they discover you have that symbol," he paused, letting the silence stretch, "it could be the end for you." The room seemed to close in around her. Her pulse raced, thoughts colliding. She had walked into this training camp expecting to prove herself, expecting to endure physical and mental trials. But she hadn't expected to step directly into a storm of secrets and dangers she couldn't yet name. "And the others?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "The recruits, will they?" "They won't understand," Rourke interrupted. "They can't, and it's better if they don't. Ignorance is a kind of protection sometimes." Alyssa looked down at her arm again. The symbol seemed to burn into her skin, sharper, more alive than ever. She remembered the envelope in her locker, the one her brother had left her, the one she had never dared open. Somehow, she knew it was connected. That envelope, her tattoo, the shadowy forces Rourke had just warned her about, they were all threads in the same dangerous web. Rourke's eyes softened for a fleeting moment. "Grant, whatever happens, you must remember this. Nothing is random. Your brother left a path and you are standing squarely in it. Whether you follow it or not is up to you." The words hung in the air. Alyssa's hands trembled slightly as she clenched them into fists at her sides. She felt the enormity of her situation pressing down, a weight unlike any she had ever experienced. The tattoo, once a simple tribute, now felt like a beacon in the dark, calling attention from places she didn't even know existed. Outside the armory, the morning sun climbed higher, bathing the camp in golden light. Yet inside, Alyssa felt nothing but the shadow of uncertainty. Somewhere in the world, people were watching, waiting. Somewhere, her brother's choices were rippling forward, touching her life in ways she could not yet comprehend. And as she left the armory that morning, trying to blend in with the other recruits, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything she had known about her life, her family, and herself had just been rewritten. The symbol on her arm was no longer just a tattoo, it was a summons. A call to a destiny she didn't yet understand. And someone somewhere was already moving to claim it. Alyssa's tattoo is revealed to be a dangerous symbol, tied to secret factions and her missing brother. She now understands her life has irrevocably changed, and powerful, unseen forces are already aware of her existence. Alyssa's mind was a whirlwind as she followed Commander Rourke down the narrow corridor leading to the operations office. The hum of fluorescent lights above buzzed in her ears, mixing with the steady beat of her pulse. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, as though the walls themselves were pressing inward, containing secrets she wasn't yet prepared to face. Rourke didn't speak as they walked. His presence was commanding, suffused with a quiet intensity that made the air feel charged. He was a man who had seen things that could strip courage from the strongest of souls, yet Alyssa could sense a rare hesitation in him. Something about her tattoo had rattled him in a way she could not yet comprehend. The operations office was stark, functional, almost cold in its design. Maps were pinned to the walls, surveillance screens flickered with live feeds, and files were stacked neatly on a steel cabinet. Rourke gestured for her to sit across from his desk. He remained standing, a shadow looming over her. "Grant," he began, his voice measured but tight with urgency. "I need you to tell me everything about that tattoo, every detail. Who gave it to you, when, and why?" Alyssa swallowed, her hands gripping the edge of the chair. "It was given to me after my brother passed. I never met the person who sent it. It came with this." She reached into her jacket and pulled out the worn envelope she had kept hidden for years, placing it on his desk. The envelope bore the same symbol as her tattoo, black and simple, but imbued with a sense of purpose she hadn't fully understood until now. Rourke's hand hovered over the envelope, trembling ever so slightly before he opened it. Inside were several folded papers, a small photograph, and a handwritten note with his own name scrawled across the top. His eyes widened as he read. This shouldn't exist," he whispered, his voice almost lost in the sterile room. He looked up at Alyssa, his face a mixture of disbelief and alarm. "Your brother, he was involved in a classified operation, one that officially never happened." Alyssa felt her stomach twist. But he told me he was on a medical rescue assignment, that he was doing good helping people. I thought he died in an accident. Rourke shook his head slowly. No, he was chosen for something else, something secret. He was gifted in ways that made him perfect for a unit that doesn't officially exist, Black Ops off-the-books missions that the government doesn't acknowledge. And the symbol, he pointed to her tattoo, then back to the envelope. It's a marker, a badge, a key, and you have it on your skin. Alyssa's hands trembled. She had always known her brother's death was mysterious, but she had never imagined it involved clandestine operations or secret units that were erased from history. Her chest tightened, a suffocating realization washing over her. The envelope, the tattoo, the timing of everything. Her life was now entwined with forces far beyond her understanding. Rourke sat down, his fingers steepled on the desk. Your brother didn't just die, Grant. He vanished during an operation and no one knows what happened. No bodies recovered, no transmissions. Nothing. The unit he was part of, it was wiped from official records. Only those who were directly involved know the truth. Alyssa's mind raced, memories of her brother flooding back. The late-night calls, the sudden disappearances, the cryptic messages he left behind. All of it now seemed part of a larger, darker puzzle. So, why did he send me this? She asked, gesturing to the envelope. Why would he trust me with this symbol? Rourke's eyes softened, though the tension in his face did not ease. Because your brother knew that you were strong, resourceful, and courageous. He knew you could handle information and responsibilities that others could not. And perhaps, he knew you'd need to understand eventually. But not yet, not fully. That's why he left clues, and that's why you now carry this mark. Alyssa's chest tightened further. Clues? What kind of clues? Rourke tapped the envelope gently. Inside here is everything your brother wanted you to know. Details about the operation he was involved in, the people who are after it, and the symbol you wear. This is your inheritance, whether you like it or not. And it's dangerous. She swallowed hard, her throat dry. Dangerous how? Rourke leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. Grant, the people who sent that unit, who orchestrated your brother's disappearance, they are still active. They are watching and they are ruthless. They will stop at nothing to recover what your brother carried, and now that includes you. Alyssa's pulse pounded in her ears. Her life had always been challenging, grueling training, endless expectations, surviving personal loss. But this was a new kind of fear. One that came not from physical pain or exhaustion, but from shadows she could neither see nor anticipate. She glanced down at the tattoo again. Once mocked, it now felt alive, almost throbbing with a silent message. It was a warning, a beacon, a summons, and it was her responsibility to answer it. Rourke's voice broke through her thoughts. Grant, I need you to make a choice. You can ignore this, pretend it doesn't exist. But if you do, you will be unprepared when the people who are looking for that symbol come for you. Or you can embrace it. Learn everything, prepare, and fight back. The path your brother left for you isn't safe, but it is the only path that leads to answers. Alyssa's hands clenched into fists. Fear and determination warred inside her. Her brother had disappeared years ago, leaving nothing but questions and grief. Now, for the first time, she had a thread to follow, a dangerous, twisting thread, but one that might lead to truth. She looked up at Rourke, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. I'll do it. I'll follow it. I need to know what happened to him. Rourke's eyes flickered with a mixture of respect and apprehension. Good, because once you step onto this path, there's no turning back. And Grant, you are not the only one interested in that tattoo. Others have noticed it already and they won't hesitate. You need to be prepared, mentally, physically, and strategically. Alyssa nodded, her mind racing. The envelope, the tattoo, her brother's legacy, it was all connected. And the more she realized the truth, the heavier the burden became. She had expected to face grueling physical challenges at Camp Bighorn, but this was an entirely different test. A test of survival, of intelligence, and of courage under pressure that could literally cost her life. Rourke handed her a small notebook, its cover black, unmarked. "This is where you start. The first set of information your brother wanted you to have. Study it, memorize it, internalize it. Every detail matters, every connection counts. And remember, trust no one outside this room until you fully understand the scope of what you're facing." Alyssa took the notebook, her hands steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Her brother's life, her own, the secrets he had uncovered, they were all now intertwined with her destiny. As she left the office, clutching the notebook, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Shadows moved in the corners of her vision, fleeting glimpses of figures that vanished before she could focus. The world she had known, her training, her family, her life at Camp Bighorn, felt fragile, almost unreal. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered. Her brother was not gone. He had left a trail. And now, it was up to her to follow it. Alyssa receives the envelope her brother left her, containing secrets she wasn't meant to see. Commander Rourke warns her of dangerous factions watching her, and for the first time, she realizes that her life is no longer her own. The symbol on her tattoo is a key, and someone out there is already moving to claim it. The night had fallen over Camp Bighorn, draping the sprawling training grounds in shadows that seemed almost alive. Lights flickered along the perimeter, and the occasional distant bark of a guard dog punctuated the silence. Inside the barracks, Alyssa sat cross-legged on her bunk, the small black notebook from Commander Rourke open in her lap. Her hands trembled as she turned each page, absorbing every line, every symbol, every cryptic note her brother had left behind. Each entry was a window into a life she barely recognized. Her brother had always been enigmatic, brave, and brilliant in ways that sometimes frustrated her, but the depth of his secret world was staggering. Tactical diagrams, coded maps, encrypted messages, and lists of names she didn't recognize filled the pages. Every detail hinted at missions beyond conventional understanding, missions that existed in shadows and vanished without trace. Alyssa's mind raced as she tried to piece it together. Her brother had claimed he was on medical rescue assignments, always trying to ease the fear of those around him. Yet these pages told a different story. He had been part of something far larger, far darker. And now, she carried the symbol that marked her as connected to it all. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft creak of the door. She looked up to see Commander Rourke standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the dim hallway light. "You're still up," he said quietly, his voice a mixture of concern and controlled urgency. "I couldn't sleep," Alyssa admitted, closing the notebook. "There's so much here, I don't even know where to start." Rourke stepped inside, his gaze heavy but measured. "Start with the basics, who your brother trusted, who he feared, and what he considered untouchable." Alyssa nodded, taking a deep breath. "He always said I was strong enough to handle anything, that I could protect myself, that I could handle the truth. I never realized how much he meant that literally." Rourke's jaw tightened. He was preparing you for this moment, whether you knew it or not. And now, you are in the position to take what he left and continue his work, or risk it falling into the wrong hands. Alyssa swallowed hard. "But I don't even know where to begin. Everything is so big, so complicated." Rourke's eyes softened, the first trace of vulnerability Alyssa had ever seen in him. "You start with who he was, not the missions, not the symbols, not the enemies. You start with the man he was to you, because understanding him is the only way you'll survive the rest." Alyssa's chest tightened. Memories flooded back. Her brother laughing late at night over board games, teaching her how to ride a bike, carrying her through storms when she was too small to keep up. Those were the memories she clung to, the moments that felt real, untainted by espionage, danger, or secrets. And yet, the notebook, the tattoo, the envelope, they all suggested that beneath those moments lay a life she had never been allowed to see. Her fingers traced the symbol on her tattoo, and she realized for the first time that it wasn't just a memory, it was a message. a thread connecting her to him, a puzzle she now had to solve. "Grant," Rourke said softly, breaking her reverie, "your brother was not just someone who disappeared. He was a strategist, a protector, someone who made choices the rest of the world couldn't even imagine. He saved lives others had written off, navigated situations that most couldn't survive. And when he vanished—" Alyssa's voice trembled. "When he vanished, did he die?" Rourke shook his head slowly. "No, not in the conventional sense. He survived for a time, operating in shadows, doing things no one else could, but that survival came at a cost. He trusted the wrong people and he made enemies, people who are still out there, watching, waiting." A chill ran down Alyssa's spine. She had always mourned him, had always assumed his death was an unfortunate accident, but now the reality was far more terrifying. Her brother had been alive, moving through danger she could barely comprehend, and his choices had placed a target on her own back. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" she whispered, tears threatening to spill. "Why did I have to find this out like this?" Rourke's expression was grim. "Because the truth is dangerous, because knowledge can kill if wielded by the unprepared, and because your brother believed in you. He believed you would be ready when the time came." Alyssa's mind reeled. She felt the enormity of her situation pressing down on her, the weight of decisions she had never imagined making. She had been recruited, trained, and tested for survival before, but this was a different kind of test. One that required intelligence, courage, and the ability to navigate a world filled with unseen threats. Her thoughts returned to the envelope, the pages filled with codes, names, and diagrams. Each entry was a clue, a piece of a larger puzzle she had yet to assemble. And in the center of it all was the symbol on her arm, a symbol that connected her to a brother she thought she knew, but now realized she had only glimpsed through fragments and memories. "Your brother left more than just this symbol," Rourke continued, his voice low and urgent. "He left instructions, contingencies, warnings, and now you have to follow them. Because whoever is watching, whoever is hunting, they won't stop, and they won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who stands in their way." Alyssa felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. She had trained for extreme physical endurance, for grueling drills, for surviving in hostile environments, but she had never prepared for the invisible threats now closing in. The idea that her brother's legacy could place her life in imminent danger was almost unbearable. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of determination ignited. She remembered his words, "You are strong enough to handle the truth. You can protect yourself." She realized now that strength was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, and strategic. She had to embrace this path, no matter how perilous. Rourke placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "Grant, you are ready, or you will be if you trust yourself, and you must. Your brother believed in you more than anyone else ever could. That belief is your greatest weapon." Alyssa took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had always admired her brother's courage, his intelligence, his unwavering moral compass. Now she realized she had to embody those same qualities if she wanted to survive, if she wanted to uncover the truth, if she wanted to honor his legacy. Outside the barracks, the wind howled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. Shadows danced across the walls, and somewhere in the distance, the hum of distant machinery reminded her that the world beyond these walls was alive with dangers she could not yet see. She looked down at her tattoo again. The black symbol, once mocked and dismissed by her peers, now seemed to pulse with life, a quiet warning and a call to action. It was more than a memory, it was a map, a key, a challenge. And it was hers to follow. Rourke's voice broke through her thoughts one last time. "Tonight you rest. Tomorrow we begin. You will study the notes, you will memorize the codes, and you will learn the truths your brother wanted you to know. But never forget, someone is already aware of that symbol, and they are coming." Alyssa closed the notebook, holding it against her chest. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her, but she also felt a quiet resolve taking root. She would find her brother, uncover the truth, and protect the secrets he had entrusted to her, no matter the cost. As she lay down on her bunk, staring at the ceiling, a single thought ran through her mind. Her brother was not the man she thought she knew, and she would have to become someone stronger than she ever imagined to follow him. Outside, the shadows shifted again, almost imperceptibly, as if the night itself was aware of the dangerous path now unfolding. Somewhere beyond the safety of the camp walls, eyes watched. Plans moved silently in the darkness, and the symbol on Alyssa's arm glowed in her mind, not with light but with purpose. A journey had begun. A journey into truth. A journey into danger. And there would be no turning back. Alyssa begins to uncover the hidden life of her brother and realizes the full danger surrounding her. She understands that the symbol on her tattoo connects her directly to a secret world of power, enemies, and hidden truths. Her journey has only just begun, and powerful, unseen forces are already in motion. The wind had shifted to a biting chill by the time Alyssa stepped out onto the training ground. The night sky stretched like a dark canvas above Camp Bighorn. The moon cast pale light over the rows of barracks, the shadows long and distorted. Her breath came in shallow, controlled bursts as she tried to calm the racing of her heart. Everything she had just learned, the envelope, the tattoo, the secrets her brother had left behind, pulled at her mind like a storm. Commander Rourke appeared beside her silently, his presence steady, reassuring, yet brimming with tension. His eyes scanned the horizon with military precision, a faint crease between his brows hinting at concern he rarely showed. "Something's coming," he said quietly. Not a question, not a suggestion, but a certainty that Alyssa felt in her bones. Before she could ask what he meant, the base alarm blared, piercing the night with a shrill, urgent scream. Lights flickered along the perimeter. Warning signals painted the darkness in red. Recruits, some still unsettled by the day's unusual events, scrambled to their stations, the chaos a sharp contrast to the controlled tension Rourke carried with him. Rourke grabbed Alyssa's arm, pulling her toward the operations center. "Now, Grant, you need to see this." Inside the dimly lit operations room, screens displayed a series of fast-moving blips. One signal, in particular, had drawn Rourke's attention. An unidentified helicopter entering restricted airspace, its transponder flashing a symbol that made Alyssa's stomach tighten. The symbol on the monitor was the same as her tattoo. Her pulse thundered. That can't be," she whispered, her voice shaking. Rourke's eyes were dark, focused. "It's not a coincidence. That helicopter is part of what your brother was involved in, and it's come back for a reason." Alyssa stared at the monitor, the implications crashing over her like a tidal wave. Her brother had vanished years ago. The missions he had undertaken were erased from history, hidden from the world. And now, somehow, the past was reaching out to her. The symbol wasn't just a mark, it was a key, and it had drawn someone's attention. Rourke handed her a headset. "You're coming with me," he said firmly. "If your brother, or what's left of that operation, is aboard, you need to be ready. There's no telling what you'll find." The wind whipped around them as they ran toward the far end of the runway, soldiers moving with precise efficiency, weapons raised, eyes scanning for threats. Alyssa followed closely, adrenaline surging through her veins. The helicopter's engines roared as it landed, kicking up a storm of dust and debris. The atmosphere was electric, tense, almost cinematic in the way danger seemed to manifest out of nothing but instinct. Rourke motioned for her to stay low. "We don't know what's inside. Could be nothing, could be everything. Move carefully." Alyssa's heart pounded as they approached. The helicopter was silent now, ominously still. The cockpit was blacked out, windows reflecting only the lights of the base and the stars above. No movement, no signs of life. "Sir, what if it's empty?" she asked, the words barely escaping her lips. "Then we still need to know why it's here," Rourke replied, his voice tight. "Everything about this is a message, and messages like this are rarely friendly." As they drew closer, the hatch began to open on its own, creaking slightly. Dust swirled around their boots, the storm of wind making it difficult to see clearly. Alyssa gripped her sidearm tighter, every nerve in her body alert. Inside the helicopter was a single, unassuming metal case. Nothing else. No pilot, no crew, no bodies, just the case, cold and heavy in the dim light. Alyssa felt a chill crawl up her spine. Rourke stepped closer, glancing back at her. "Go ahead, open it." With trembling hands, Alyssa lifted the lid. Inside were her brother's dog tags, gleaming faintly under the moonlight. Her chest tightened, a mixture of grief and relief flooding her senses. The dog tags were a tangible link to him, proof that he had been here, that he had survived, at least for some time. Attached to the tags was a small recording device, blinking faintly, still active. Alyssa's hands shook as she picked it up. Rourke leaned in, his face a mask of controlled urgency. "You need to play it," he said quietly. Alyssa pressed the button. Static filled the air for a few seconds before a voice cut through, the unmistakable, familiar voice of her brother. "Alyssa, if you're hearing this, then the mission has gone wrong. The people we trusted, the people we worked for, they are not who you think they are. And now they are looking for you." Her breath caught, every muscle in her body tensed. He continued, describing events in coded detail, explaining the operation she had only glimpsed through the notebook. The mission had involved a high-value extraction, a theft of information that could destabilize powerful factions. The symbol, the tattoo, was a marker, a cipher that only those who understood the operation could decipher. And now, Alyssa carried it. "They will come for you," the recording said. "Not for revenge, not for justice. They want the key, and they won't stop until they have it. You must be careful, trust no one, and follow the instructions your father left. Know your brother, trust me, you'll know when the time comes." The message ended abruptly, the static lingering in the air like a warning. Alyssa's hands shook as she set the device down. Her mind was racing, processing the implications. She had thought her brother's death was an accident. Now she realized he had been a part of something far larger and dangerous than she could have imagined. Rourke's voice broke through her thoughts. "You understand why I brought you here now. That case, those dog tags, that recording, it's all a signal, a warning, and a call to action." Alyssa nodded, determination hardening in her chest. Fear was still there, gnawing at her resolve, but it was tempered by purpose. Her brother had left her a path to follow, and she would follow it, no matter the cost. "Sir, what do we do next?" she asked. Rourke's eyes were intense. "We prepare. Study everything your brother left behind, train harder than ever, and be ready, because they're coming for that symbol, and now they know where you are." The wind howled around them as the helicopter lifted off, leaving behind only the faint smell of dust and ozone. Alyssa stared at the sky, the moonlight glinting off her tattoo, and realized that the world she had known was gone. In its place was a reality filled with danger, secrets, and shadows that moved with deadly precision. And somewhere out there, watching, calculating, waiting, were people who would stop at nothing to claim what her brother had protected. Alyssa felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, but also a growing sense of purpose. She had inherited a mission she hadn't chosen, a danger she couldn't avoid, but she was not powerless. She had the training, the intellect, and now the knowledge to act. As she returned to the operations room with Rourke, clutching her notebook and the recording device, she realized something fundamental. The path ahead would be perilous, the enemies invisible yet lethal, and the truths she sought would challenge everything she thought she knew about her brother, herself, and the world around her. But one thing was certain. She would follow the trail, piece together the puzzle, and confront the forces hunting her family, no matter the cost. The night stretched long and dark over Camp Bighorn. Somewhere in the shadows beyond the base, eyes followed their every move. Plans were being made. Moves were being calculated, and the symbol on Alyssa's arm, once a mark of remembrance, now shone as a beacon of danger, mystery, and destiny. Her journey had truly begun. The helicopter's arrival reveals her brother's dog tags and a recording, confirming he survived, and the mission he was part of is far from over. Alyssa learns that her tattoo is a key, and unseen forces are already moving to claim it. The first real danger has arrived. Alyssa barely slept that night. Every creak of the barracks, every whisper of the wind through the perimeter fences made her heart jump. She kept replaying the helicopter, the case, the recording, her brother's voice, clear yet distant, echoing through her mind. The truth was no longer a puzzle she could ignore. It had become a shadow that loomed over her every moment. By dawn, the camp was alive with activity. Recruits were assembling for morning drills, their movements sharp and precise, but Alyssa moved like a ghost among them, her thoughts consumed by the notebook and the dog tags. She felt the weight of every lesson she'd learned at Camp Bighorn, but now they seemed inadequate. Nothing she had trained for could fully prepare her for the world she was about to enter. Commander Rourke met her at the edge of the training field, his expression taut with urgency. "We don't have much time," he said. "They've moved. The people after the symbol are closing in faster than we anticipated. The helicopter was only the beginning." Alyssa's pulse quickened. "Who are they? Where did they come from?" Rourke shook his head. "We don't know everything yet, but I can tell you this: they are professional, organized, and extremely dangerous. Your brother knew them, and he left the symbol as both a key and a warning." Her stomach twisted. Every word confirmed what she had feared. The danger was no longer theoretical. The shadows that had haunted her brother's life were now reaching for her. They moved quickly to the operations center, where screens displayed satellite images, drone feeds, and live communications. A series of red dots had appeared on the map, converging toward the base from multiple directions. Each dot represented a vehicle, a team, a potential threat. "They've split into groups," Rourke said, tracing the path with a gloved finger. "They're surrounding the area, attempting to cut off any escape routes. This is a coordinated effort. Whoever they are, they know exactly what they're looking for." Alyssa's eyes were drawn to one particular red dot moving faster than the others. "That one," she murmured. "It's different." Rourke followed her gaze. "Yes, that's the lead team. Whoever is in it knows about you personally, or they think they do. If we engage, that's who we'll encounter first." Fear gnawed at the edges of her resolve, but determination hardened in its place. She had to face this. She had to understand the forces her brother had battled, the enemies he had made, and the truths he had left behind. Rourke handed her a compact earpiece. "You'll need this. Stay connected, follow my lead, and whatever happens, trust your instincts. They'll be tested." Alyssa nodded, sliding the earpiece into her ear. The world outside suddenly felt sharper, more dangerous. Every shadow, every distant movement could be a threat. Every step could bring them closer to those hunting her. They moved toward the northern perimeter, where a small convoy of armored vehicles waited. Rourke climbed into the lead vehicle, Alyssa following, her eyes scanning every inch of the terrain. The wind whipped around them as the convoy rumbled forward, dust rising in their wake. "Stay close," Rourke said over the comms. "They're testing our defenses. Expect contact at any moment." The first encounter came quicker than Alyssa expected. From the tree line, figures emerged, clad in black tactical gear, faces obscured. They moved with precision, weapons trained and intent clear. The lead vehicle swerved, and Rourke's voice cut through the chaos. "Engage but controlled. Remember, we're defending, not chasing." Alyssa's hands shook as she gripped her weapon. She had trained for scenarios like this in drills, but nothing compared to the reality of actual combat. Shots rang out, echoing across the field, and she felt the ground tremble beneath her as the convoy maneuvered expertly to avoid direct hits. Her training kicked in. Breathing steady, eyes focused, she moved with purpose. Every motion, every decision mattered. And yet in the back of her mind, the recording from her brother haunted her. They will come for you. Trust no one. One of the attackers broke from the line, moving faster, more precise. Alyssa recognized it immediately. The symbol on their uniform was the same as her tattoo. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't random. This was personal. Rourke noticed it too. Grant, that one, lead operative, stay with me. Don't engage unless necessary. Alyssa nodded, adrenaline sharpening her senses. The lead operative moved with inhuman precision, eliminating obstacles, signaling the others. It was clear. They had trained specifically for a mission like this, and now Alyssa was the target. The convoy reached a clearing and Rourke brought it to a halt. We need to regroup. That operative is too dangerous for a direct approach. Alyssa, this is where you come in. Her pulse quickened. Me. Rourke nodded. Yes. Your knowledge of the symbol, your intuition, your connection to your brother, it's the key. You'll guide us through the next stage. If we can anticipate their moves, we can control the engagement. Fear surged, but determination outweighed it. She took a deep breath, eyes scanning the terrain, recalling every note, every diagram, every coded map from the notebook. Slowly, a pattern emerged. She realized where the lead operative would strike next, how they were coordinating, and where the vulnerabilities lay. Commander, she said, her voice steady, they'll move through the eastern ridge. The gap between their squads is narrow. They're counting on our confusion. But if we flank them from the north, we can isolate the lead operative and force a retreat. Rourke's eyes narrowed, studying her. Are you certain? I'm certain, she replied, her fingers tightening around her weapon. The convoy shifted according to her plan, moving with precision. As they advanced, the lead operative realized too late that their movements had been anticipated. Traps set by Alyssa's quick thinking slowed them down, and Rourke's team exploited the opening expertly. Shots rang out again, echoing through the trees, but the tide of engagement had shifted. The lead operative was isolated, forced to retreat with the rest of their squad. The field, once filled with imminent danger, began to clear. Alyssa's breath came in heavy bursts, her body trembling from adrenaline. She had survived her first direct encounter with those seeking the symbol. She had used her knowledge, her instincts, and her connection to her brother to protect herself and her team. Rourke clapped a hand on her shoulder, his rare smile fleeting but genuine. Impressive, Grant, you're learning fast. Alyssa nodded, but her mind was already racing. She knew this was only the beginning. The attack had been precise, coordinated, and personal. Whoever was behind it now knew her location, her abilities, and the value of the symbol she carried. As the convoy returned to the base, she looked down at her tattoo, the black ink seeming to glow faintly in the dim morning light. It had been mocked once, dismissed as meaningless, but now it was a target, a beacon, a responsibility. And somewhere beyond the perimeter, the lead operative regrouped, planning their next move. The message was clear. This battle was far from over. Alyssa realized something fundamental as she followed Rourke back to the operations center. She was no longer a passive participant in her brother's legacy. She was active, responsible, and a key player in a game of shadows and danger that had only just begun. The journey ahead would be perilous. The enemies were skilled, organized, and ruthless, and yet within her a fierce determination burned brighter than fear. She would follow her brother's path. She would uncover the secrets. She would survive, and she would fight. The sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of red and gold. Alyssa's tattoo caught the light, black against her skin, a silent promise of the challenges ahead. The day had begun, but the war had already started. Alyssa faces her first direct attack from the forces seeking the symbol. Using her wits and knowledge from her brother's notes, she survives and gains her first taste of the deadly reality surrounding her tattoo. The enemies are organized, relentless, and already aware of her location. The real danger is only beginning. The days after the attack passed in a blur of tension, strategy sessions, and sleepless nights. Alyssa barely had time to catch her breath between studying her brother's notes and preparing for the next inevitable strike. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound suspicious. The base, once a haven of training and discipline, had become a cage surrounded by invisible threats. Commander Rourke moved with his usual precision, coordinating patrols, running simulations, and monitoring satellite feeds. Yet even his calm presence carried an edge of worry. Alyssa noticed it in the way he scanned the perimeter longer than usual, in the tightness of his jaw, in the moments when his gaze lingered on her tattoo. "Grant," he said one evening, his voice low as they walked the length of the base, "you've learned quickly. But the danger out there, it's evolving faster than we can track. You're becoming a target not just for them, but for anyone who knows what that symbol represents." Alyssa swallowed, her pulse quickening. "I know, I feel it. They're watching, waiting." Rourke nodded. "Exactly. And that's why we need an edge. Someone who knows the players, someone who understands the symbol as well as your brother did." Alyssa frowned. "And who would that be?" Rourke's expression remained unreadable. "Someone who's been in the shadows for a long time. Someone your brother trusted more than anyone else. And they've been waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves." Before Alyssa could respond, a figure emerged from the darkness of the operations room. The lights flickered as they walked closer, revealing a woman clad in tactical gear, her movements precise, confident, and almost predatory. Alyssa froze. The woman removed her hood slowly, revealing a sharp, calculating gaze and a scar running across her cheek. "Commander Rourke," she said, her voice steady, carrying authority and familiarity. "It's been a long time." Rourke's eyes softened, but only slightly. "Lena," he said, "you shouldn't have come alone." The woman, Lena, smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "I didn't have a choice. They're moving faster than we anticipated, and the girl, Grant," she added, locking eyes with Alyssa, "she needs guidance. The symbol she carries is a beacon, and everyone who knows its meaning is converging on her location. Time is short." Alyssa's heart pounded. Lena's words confirmed what she had feared. The symbol was no longer just a mark. It was a magnet, drawing danger closer every second. Rourke gestured for her to sit. "Lena knows the operation your brother was part of. She's one of the few who survived when the unit was erased from records. She can help us understand the factions, their tactics, and what they'll do next." Lena's eyes swept over Alyssa, analyzing, calculating. "Your brother trusted you with more than just the symbol. He left instructions, contingencies, and tests. Some of them are already active. Some will activate soon. You need to be ready for both." Alyssa swallowed hard. "Tests?" Lena nodded. "Your brother never did anything without planning for the unexpected. He knew his enemies would come, knew someone would try to exploit the symbol, and he left safeguards, puzzles, lessons. You're part of them now. This is why you survived the first attack. It wasn't luck. It was deliberate." Alyssa's mind raced. Everything, the notebook, the dog tags, the helicopter, was part of a larger plan, designed by a brother she thought she knew, but now realized was far more complex and calculating than she could have imagined. "Can she handle it?" Rourke asked Lena quietly, concern threading his voice. Lena studied Alyssa for a long moment, her gaze piercing. "If she trusts herself, yes. If she doubts, no. The symbol is a key, but it's also a test, and the wrong move could get her killed." Alyssa squared her shoulders, determination hardening. "I won't fail." Lena's expression softened, just enough to reveal a flicker of approval. "Good, because the next phase begins tonight. They're moving on a secondary target. It's a trap designed to draw you out, but we can turn it into an opportunity." Rourke stepped back, giving Alyssa space. "You'll need to follow Lena's lead. Study the notes she's brought. Every detail matters. Every movement is a potential danger. And trust me, nothing is as it seems." The three of them huddled over maps, encrypted files, and surveillance images. Lena pointed out patterns Alyssa hadn't noticed before. highlighting the likely paths of the operatives, their communication codes, and the methods they had used to evade detection in the past. "You see these symbols," Lena said, tapping a sequence on the map. "They're calling cards. Each one corresponds to a team, a mission, a threat. And they know the tattoo you carry corresponds to the final key. Whoever controls it first gains an enormous advantage. That's why they're coming for you." Alyssa nodded, taking notes, absorbing every detail. She realized for the first time the scale of the operation, how her brother's disappearance, the symbol, and the enemies converged into a dangerous, high-stakes game. Rourke's voice broke her focus. "Tonight we act. Lena has identified a meeting point for the lead operatives. It's their staging area. We go in, gather intel, and disrupt their plans. Quietly, efficiently, without alerting the larger network." Alyssa's pulse raced. Her first direct engagement had been terrifying, but now she was expected to infiltrate, observe, and survive without being detected. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every lesson from her brother's notebook whispered possibility. As night fell again, the three of them moved out, stealthy and precise. The forest surrounding the camp was dense, shadows merging with shadows, leaves whispering underfoot. Lena led the way, moving with the confidence of someone who had survived countless missions, her eyes constantly scanning, analyzing. Alyssa followed, heart hammering, senses heightened. Every rustle, every distant sound made her tense, reminding her that the enemy was always near. She glanced at Lena, noticing the subtle ways she communicated with Rourke, signals, hand gestures, micro-expressions. Every movement was calculated, deliberate, a dance of shadows and survival. They reached the edge of the clearing where the operatives were gathering. From their vantage point, Alyssa could see the figures, tall, imposing, methodical, arranging equipment, communicating in low, clipped tones. The symbol on their gear confirmed what Lena had said. This was the lead team, the architects of the previous attack, and now they were vulnerable. Lena whispered instructions. "We move in phases, observe first, note patterns, identify the leader, we strike only if necessary." Alyssa nodded, her body tense but ready. The shadows seemed to shift, the forest alive with the presence of danger. She realized with a surge of adrenaline that the hidden ally her brother had left behind, Lena, was more than a guide. She was a lifeline, a bridge to the past, and the key to surviving what was coming next. And somewhere beyond the clearing, hidden among the darkness, the lead operative noticed a movement in the trees. The hunt was far from over. And Alyssa knew, deep in her bones, that the next encounter would change everything. A mysterious ally, Lena, emerges from her brother's past, offering guidance and knowledge of the operatives hunting Alyssa. The next phase of the mission begins, a stealth operation to gather intel on the lead team. Tension is high, danger is imminent, and every move is critical. The night was thick and suffocating, the kind of darkness that swallowed the forest whole. Alyssa crouched behind a fallen log, heart hammering in her chest, every nerve on edge. Lena and Rourke flanked her, shadows moving like ghosts as they advanced toward the clearing where the lead operatives had been observed. The air was heavy with tension. The quiet of the forest was deceptive, masking the storm of danger that lurked within it. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a branch made Alyssa's pulse spike. She checked the notebook once more, memorizing the coded paths, the symbols, the contingency plans her brother had left for this very moment. "This is it," Lena whispered, her voice sharp but calm. "The operatives are gathered. We get the intel, we disrupt their plans, and we disappear. No unnecessary risks." Alyssa nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She had trained for endurance, precision, and survival, but this was a test of courage she had never faced before. Her tattoo felt like it was burning, a constant reminder of the key she carried, the legacy she had inherited, and the enemy closing in on her every move. They reached the edge of the clearing. Alyssa crouched low, surveying the operatives below. Black-clad figures moved with deadly precision, unaware of the trio watching from above. Among them, she noticed the one from the previous attack, the lead operative. The symbol on his gear matched hers, and his presence alone exuded authority and lethal intent. "He's here," Lena murmured. "That's the one your brother warned about. Keep your distance. Observe." Alyssa's eyes narrowed. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every lesson from her brother's notes whispered strategy. She realized the mission wasn't just to survive, it was to understand. To see the patterns, anticipate the moves, and confront the enemy with intelligence, not just force. Rourke signaled for them to move closer, a silent gesture. They crept through the underbrush, shadows among shadows, until they reached a vantage point overlooking the operative's makeshift command post. Equipment hummed with electronic life, encrypted files flickering on screens, communications bouncing invisibly through the night air. Lena handed Alyssa a small device. "This will intercept their communications. You'll hear everything. It's your chance to anticipate their next move." Hands steady despite adrenaline, Alyssa activated the device. Voices crackled through the earpiece, calculated, clipped, professional. Every word, every command, every shift in tone revealed patterns. She began mapping movements, timing, and weaknesses, the information forming a coherent strategy in her mind. "They're splitting," she whispered. "Half to the east ridge, half to the north. The lead operative, he's trying to lure us into a trap." Lena's eyes flickered with approval. "Good. That means we control the tempo. Stay sharp." As they moved, a sudden sound ripped through the silence, a twig snapping underfoot. Alyssa froze. The lead operative had noticed movement. His gaze swept the darkness, calculating, lethal. The tension was palpable. "They know we're here," Lena whispered urgently. "Prepare." Alyssa's muscles coiled. The forest seemed to shrink around her, the shadows alive with the promise of violence. And then, without warning, the lead operative moved. Swift, precise, almost impossible to track, he advanced toward their position. Rourke and Lena flanked Alyssa, weapons ready, movement synchronized. Alyssa felt the weight of the legacy she carried. The tattoo, the notebook, the recording, the path her brother had laid. She realized now that she wasn't just following in his footsteps. She was confronting the consequences of his choices. The lead operative paused, scanning the tree line. Alyssa held her breath. And then, in a split second, he disappeared into the shadows, reappearing behind them. "Move," Lena shouted. Shots rang out, ricocheting off trees, the forest erupting into chaos. Alyssa's training kicked in, her body moving with precision. Every shot fired, every step taken, every decision mattered. She ducked, rolled, and returned fire, the sounds of combat filling the night. Despite the chaos, she noticed the pattern, the operative's movements, the way he anticipated attacks, the rhythm of his strategy. She realized that to survive, she couldn't just react. She had to anticipate, predict, and act preemptively. "Grant," Rourke shouted over the gunfire. "Use the device. He's communicating with the others." Alyssa tapped the device, intercepting the operative's commands. She heard every move, every signal, every intended action. With a sudden clarity, she directed Lena and Rourke, adjusting their positioning, exploiting weaknesses, and creating openings. The lead operative faltered, caught off guard by their coordination. Alyssa seized the moment, moving with speed and precision. She confronted him directly, eyes locked with his. The symbol on his gear matched hers, a mirror of purpose, legacy, and danger. "You're too late," Alyssa said, voice steady despite the adrenaline. "You underestimated her," Lena added from the side. The operative lunged, and Alyssa's training and instincts combined into a fluid motion, dodging, countering, and finally disarming him. He fell to the ground, stunned, the symbol on his chest illuminated by the moonlight. "Why are you doing this?" Alyssa demanded, her voice shaking with emotion and fury. The operative smirked, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "You have no idea what you've inherited. Your brother, he set you up. He made you part of this game. Alyssa's chest tightened. Yes, and now I finish it. You're not taking anything else from my family. She stepped forward, securing the operative and calling Lena and Rourke. The forest was quiet again, the chaos subsiding, but the threat was not gone. This confrontation had been a battle, not the war. Rourke placed a hand on her shoulder. You did well. Your brother would be proud. Alyssa's eyes filled with tears, both from relief and the weight of what she had endured. I had to know, she whispered. I had to understand why he disappeared, why he left me this path. Lena stepped forward, placing a hand on Alyssa's arm. You've proven yourself. The symbol, the legacy, it's safe for now. But remember, this is just the beginning. The people behind him, they're still out there, and they're still dangerous. Alyssa nodded, determination hardening. She had faced the shadow of her brother's past, confronted the forces hunting him and herself, and survived. But she knew the journey was far from over. The symbol was more than a tattoo. It was a responsibility, a key, and a burden she now fully understood. She looked up at the night sky, the stars glinting faintly, and whispered a promise. I will protect it, I will uncover the truth, and I will finish what you started. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the clearing, other figures shifted, watching, calculating, waiting. The war for the symbol was far from over, but Alyssa was ready. For the first time, she felt the true weight and the power of the legacy her brother had left her. And she knew beyond doubt that she would not fail. Alyssa confronts the lead operative in a cinematic, high-stakes showdown, using her brother's legacy, her training, and her instincts to survive and prevail. She secures the symbol, gains critical intel, and understands the true weight of her inheritance. But the larger threat still looms, leaving the story with lingering suspense and room for continuation.